Ooh, today's topic is Are Divorced in Black. We are going to talk about it. Did you watch it?
Yes, I did twice actually. Divorce in Black is by Tyler Perry. So if you have not seen it yet, it's on Amazon Prime. So, spoiler alert, if you have not seen it yet, we are getting ready to discuss the movie, our thoughts on it, any takeaways we have. And yeah, we have I got my cup of cocoa slash coffee.
I got my good old favorite.
I'll be sipping on that. And yeah, what was your first impression?
When I first watched it, I watched it when it first came out on Prime. I had seen it on Facebook. Everybody was like talking about it. So I was like, let me go and see what is going on with this movie. And as soon as I started it, I was like, oh my goodness. I loved her girlfriend. I was like, oh, that is me all the way. I can't bite my tongue for nothing, and I have zero tolerance for the ignorance, like of it. Jumped right into it. Like starting off, he was just being extra disrespectful, and it was like, oh my goodness. Mm-mm. I think in those moments, I realized like I am pro woman, and I wouldn't even be able to be in a restaurant watching that go down, not even knowing them. I'd have to have something to say. Like I'm one of those.
Yeah. Well, I'll say my first impression was the funeral. So
Mm.
the funeral is what took the cake in the beginning. I mean, it started off strong when she was like, "Take him out."
Suit and everything. Just to take him out the casket.
Her clothes. She's like, no, take him out the casket. We don't want the casket either. I'm like, oh
Didn't
no,
want the dress, didn't want the suit, didn't want the casket, carrying him
nothing. We don't
out
want nothing from y'all.
and buried him in the backyard.
Yeah. But the impression I got from that moment was this is a family maybe who is not so well off, and they've had a lot of issues within the little city they're in, their town. Um, but their pride is a lot stronger than anything. So I was kind of just like, okay, let me brace myself to see how they're actually going to act, because it was like that ignorance in the beginning. Okay, what is going to come after this? So I already knew it was going to be a crazy movie just from how it started. But some people had, good things and bad things to say about the movie. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I feel like it's one of those, whatever your type of movie is, some people just don't like Tyler Perry altogether, which I think they're crazy because I
I
feel like
love all of them.
yeah, he is a genius with everything he has. Yeah, some of his shows kind of have, you know, the same. I wouldn't even necessarily say the same, but it's always some type of woman related issue, which he already explained why he makes movies like that, because he's seen his mom go through all the things that she went through. So it's like, why would you not respect that man for putting all these people in business and, just being creative in a whole, I would say.
Well, and let's talk about it. Like, we don't talk enough about broken homes. We don't
Hmm.
talk enough about the different forms of childhood traumas.
Hmm.
Even in that movie, you could see how much childhood trauma he had came from,
Yeah.
and how much childhood trauma she had stemmed from. Like the moment she learned, like I thought by me being good
Hmm.
was to be a good wife, to show you like you raised me, mama, to lay in my bed and deal with whatever is at hand.
Yeah.
And that was a moment, because um, communication is the key. And when we don't communicate, even with our children or with our parents, the mind can lead us into a very negative, bad space, especially when you're thinking that somebody wants and needs you to be a particular way. So you grow up thinking like this is the expectation of my parents, whole time that's not. Or you get into a relationship thinking that this was the expectation of my significant other, whole time it wasn't. Like, if you don't communicate about it, you'll never know, and your mind will lead you into a place to where you can be broken, you can be very dysfunctional. And that's the sad part about it, is if we don't communicate, we'll never know. And you have all that open space for your mind just to bring you to wherever it is that you think that person expects from you.
Yeah, and I can agree. I feel like I kind of had a moment where it was like an aha for me. Um, I, for the longest, thought my parents had certain things happen in their relationship, which I didn't know until I was in my late 30s that that was absolutely not what happened because there was that lack of communication. So I think sometimes as parents, we kind of are like, I don't want to involve my children in adult things, and you kind of are hush hush about certain things, relationships, whatever. Um, but it also hurts those kids because that could have been a learning moment for them. They could have learned at that moment that, hey, love isn't always necessarily perfect, but you stick in it when it's actually real. But you don't stick in it if it gets abusive or, harmful and things like that. So I don't know. Without that communication, I feel like people don't know. They're just like mom and dad have been together for 45 years, but mom and dad didn't go through abuse of any kind. Mom and dad just went through hard times as far as maybe bills being behind and, you know, grandpa or grandma losing their job or, things like that. We think hard times in this generation, I would say, as sticking through it when your man is running out on you or when your man doesn't have a job and you're holding him down. And that's not what grandpa and grandma went through. Like, at
Absolutely
that
no.
reciprocation, and I think that that's also something that was good that they had in the movie when she did. You think, this is a family that's still together, they didn't have any issues, and the mom's like, I had my moments too, I just didn't talk to you about them. So that was good to see too.
Yeah. I mean, we always think like an adult is supposed to be an adult and a child is supposed to be a child. And I think I just went through this even with my niece, like trying to explain to her, like, we grow up hearing adults tell us stay in a child's place. And then here we go and we start telling our children stay in a child's place. And so here whole time she's been telling her son like to stay in a child's place. And I had to ask her, like, where is this place? Where what is a child's place? Like, because if you don't know, you just don't know. And so you're talking to a child saying stay in a child's place. Like, are you sure he even knows what that place is? And I think that it's time for us to break those generational curses and those chains, and for you to sit down and explain to him what you feel like a child's place is. So when next time you tell him like, hey, stay in a child's place, he knows exactly what that means and where that means he needs to be. But if you're not talking to him and telling him what a child's place is, he's clueless of what you're talking about. Like, and you're going to leave him in the dark. Like, so why don't you go ahead and you sit down with him and y'all design what a child's place is? And I said, because I heard it growing up so many times that's all I said to my kids. And I think when I looked back at it, I even was talking to my oldest and I said, the only thing that I explained to y'all in detail of why it was y'all couldn't curse, because y'all don't pay no damn bills. Like, when you can pay a bill is when you can curse. Like, but you don't pay no bills in this house, so that's why I can curse and you can't. So that was the only thing that was explained of why it was that we were different. But other than that, like, I constantly said stay in a child's place. And I don't even know if they even knew what that was. Like, where is that? Like, please, can somebody tell me where a child's place is? And so now that I'm older and I have different tools in my box, I'm able now to backtrack and understand like a child's place is where you design with that child so then they know where it is. If we're not communicating with our children, they don't have a clue of what it is that we're talking about. They're just going with the flow and trying to watch you grow so that they can understand and get a better understanding, or watching their friends, watching people just in general and thinking like, okay, I think I know what it is now and I think I have a clue. But if you don't sit there and tell them in detail of what that is, it can bring you anywhere.
And I think also there's a fine line between including your children in certain conversations and not. Yeah, of course, you don't want to sit down and be talking to your kids. Oh, your daddy cheated on me 17 times with Sherilyn. No, that's not the way you would include your children in that conversation.
Right.
You definitely would have to have a different conversation with them about the same things that you're maybe experiencing at the right age. You don't tell a 3-year-old that their daddy ain't no good, and you know what I mean. Like
But
there's
even, but even in those moments, I mean, Devin, so like now that we're grown
hmm
and we can look back, if your daddy was cheating with Cheryl down the road, what part did you play in that? How did you contribute to your daddy, you know, cheating down the road, and or your significant other, like
hmm
now when I talk, so I got the girls that don't care. Of course, I only had a certain amount of tools in my toolbox. And so once I had Jaden, I had him when I was older with more tools. I knew like what it is that I've done wrong, or how I could correct some of those actions. Having those conversations with him now, of course, I'm not going to tell him anything negative about his dad, but I am going to tell him, me and your dad aren't getting along, and letting him know like what part I played in that, or
Yep.
what I could have done to contribute to why it is that we're not getting along. Especially if I want to give you some details of what it is that your daddy was doing.
hmm
Um, Instead of just shining just a whole light like he's just the dark one, and you know I was the angel. Like, no, we all contributed. It takes two to tango.
Yeah. No, yeah, I completely agree with that. And like you said, there's a certain way that you would talk to him about it instead of just saying like, "Oh, your dad, your dad, your dad," and pointing the finger. Like, what role did I play in this? And I think this movie kind of touches on that, especially when she was in the car and she was saying, we've been together 17 years. I don't know, nobody's gonna want a almost 40-year-old woman. That just showed right there that she doesn't have her own self love.
Mm-hmm.
She put everything in that man loving her to where she doesn't even know who she is. And that's also something that I feel like a lot of women do. I myself did it, so I can speak to that because it's something I did personally, and it's terrible. I mean, nobody wants to. As soon as you break up with someone, you don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I had to figure out who I was, and I seen that in that movie. It was like she was just lost. He wants a divorce. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Nobody is gonna want someone who's almost 40. Nobody's gonna want some almost 40-year-old P, as she says. And it's like, no, I mean, anybody can find love at any age,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're in the midst of something and you're feeling like this is the all of be all and this is the love of my life, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you do also have to have enough feeling within yourself to say, okay, if this does not work, I'm okay. I can move on. Yes, he was the love of my life. However, I know what I bring to the table.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people don't do that. And they need to realize what you bring. What are your qualities? So you're not so wrapped up in somebody else's. And I had to learn that. You know, I really had to learn that.
Well, even so, like trying to figure out who you are and what your self worth is allows you then to put certain boundaries up to protect yourself. And in the movie, she allowed him to do so much to her. One, because she felt like that was the expectation of her mother, and two, because she wasn't having that self love for herself. So she felt like she was deserving of it until he hurt her daddy. And then that's when she switched over, like, okay, like I already went and had this conversation with my mama,
Uh-huh.
got that cleared out, and now you done hurt my daddy. Like,
Yeah. But it was crazy because just hearing how he talked to her and the way that he was, it's like, can you imagine what she experienced for 17 years?
mm-hmm,
And you're just dealing with it just because you love this person. And I think that's why there's so many broken women, because you can still be broken in a relationship. But there's so many broken women because it's like, you know that feeling when something don't feel right
mm-hmm,
in your gut, in your inside. You're just like, something just is not right. You have to trust that. You have to really go based on that. Yeah, nobody wants to just make these spontaneous decisions with their life and randomly leave someone, but you know when something's right and when something's wrong. And you have to
mm-hmm.
start listening to that, because it's like you could end up just like her 17 years down the road. And now this dude is making a complete fool of you because his brother passed and now he wants to blame someone. And it's like, you're putting that blame on me for what? Like, I didn't do nothing to your brother. Like, I've been here this whole time. But that's exactly what he did. Like, when he left her, she said, I'll take 45 minutes to get ready. And he left her to go to dinner. They're going on a double date. Why would you leave me
I wouldn't even have went.
to go to dinner? And then she shows up like, oh, it's okay. I'm
I
not
wouldn't even have went. If I would have came downstairs and you gone, oh, you gonna go by yourself then? Like,
exactly. Like,
it's
what
a
do you mean
wrap.
you're not upset? And she's
I
like,
would have
it's
been to
okay,
text
girl.
my homegirl.
I'm on my way. It's okay, girl. It's not okay. What you mean it's okay? He's
I
here.
would have texted my homegirl like, look, well, I ain't coming.
And he had made that decision before he left. He was like, I'm about to act a plum fool up in here.
Mm-hmm.
Come in, keep the drinks coming. Oh no, you get this joker up out of here.
And
Get him.
that's why I loved her homegirl. Her homegirl was like not having it.
Yeah, I definitely am that homegirl as well.
Homegirl was not having it. Like,
So get your wife. Don't get my.
you get me.
You the one
come
that
get me.
crazy.
Mm-hmm. I would have been like, don't tell him to come get me. Deal with me. You deal with me.
So, do you think she was wrong for starting her new relationship with the guy from her childhood?
No.
Before the divorce was final?
No.
Because
And
some
the
people would
reason
look at that and say, "Oh, she's this, she's that."
that I would say is, I say it every time we on here. I am a true firm believer in everything happens for a reason. Not everybody's going to understand and get what's going on in their life, but I believe that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And if that is who God put in my path at that time to help build me up and to put me back together and to give me the strength to be able to walk away, then that was who he sent for me.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how I would have looked at it. It might not be forever, but for the moment, this is what God thinks that I need. And so I am a firm believer in that everything happens for a reason, regardless if, my homegirl, my family, my friends, my significant other, if they don't understand it, like it wasn't for everybody to understand.
Yeah.
As long as I understand that there's a role to play in my life and that sometimes I might not have strength to get up and walk away. And when God knows that, you don't have enough strength and he done put a little bit too much on your plate, he sends you help. Yep. And help comes in all different forms, shapes, and sizes. And it's not for everybody else to understand that situation. That's only for you to understand of where it is that you're going with it. Like, God knows all my intentions. He knows that I ain't out here being malicious with anybody, and my intent is not to hurt any or harm anybody.
Yeah.
People might not know that, but as long as God knows that, I'm good with it. I know that, and he knows that. I'll sit here and I'll tell you that I had no malicious intent. I I was deliberately trying to go out of my way to hurt you. But if you got hurt in it, I'm grown enough to apologize for that. But I need what I need in life. And sometimes I don't even know what it is that I need. And so when things come through my path, I sit here and I ask, like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I pray, and a lot of times I pray for strength. A lot of times I pray for healing and guidance. And when things come through in my life, it's like, did you send this person to me? And sometimes the person might not even be a good person,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to understand that I'm going to get tested as well.
Yep.
And I have to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm good with it. Like, no, I don't think that she was wrong. She needed that. That was something for her, not for anybody else. She needed that one for her to even understand that she is worthy. Like, when we're in relationships and for a long period of time, and your significant other is verbally beating you down, emotionally beating you down, and physically beating you down, sometimes you don't feel like you're worthy enough for anything. And in those moments, you need somebody else just to come and let you know, like, you're beautiful, or I see you, or just anything to be able to pick yourself up, to be able to get it back together.
Yep, I can agree with that. And that's what I think exactly what it is. It was her needing to know, like, this is, you are valuable. You are wanted. Regardless of what you think, nobody's going to want you. Let me show you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wants you who is amazing. You deserve someone who treats you amazing. Because I think sometimes we look at our wrongs and we think, maybe I don't deserve the best of the best. And it's like, yes, you do. Why would you not deserve the best of the best? Like, you're amazing, regardless of what your flaws are, what you feel like you may have done wrong to where you should not get these great things. You still deserve the best because nobody's perfect. And I think a lot of times I told myself that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm not perfect, so why should I expect perfection from someone? Which, I mean, that's still true to a certain extent. However, when you use that in a scenario of accepting someone's mistreatment of you,
Mm-hmm.
that's when
And
you're
you know
trying,
that it's mistreatment.
exactly, and you're trying to convince yourself, like, oh no, it's okay that he does such and such because when I was 17, I did this, or I lost my virginity at a young age, and I had kids early, or whatever your story is, because everybody looks at certain things and thinks that that means they're damaged goods, and it's like, no, you're not damaged.
Or not even necessary that you did something, but because you could have been a product of somebody that did nothing but sit around and talk ill to you to lead you to believe that you just was never deserving. There are people that are here on this earth that from day one birth believe that they just was never deserving of it.
Mm. Yeah, that's true.
Because, there is a lot of ill-minded people out here that some don't need to have children and have some kids and they don't want kids, but I had you because I was trying to keep this man, and now this man don't want me, and so I don't want you either because the only reason I had you was to keep him. And so now every time I look at you, you reminded me of this man that I can't have.
Ooh,
So
we need to have
I'm
a.
being,
I think we need to have a whole podcast on that.
you know what I'm saying? So
Seriously, because that happens more often than we think.
yes.
And there's a lot of women who will not admit that, but that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say you can't come back from that, but I feel like the biggest thing is to recognize that that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And some women won't even accept that that's actually what they're doing, but it is. How are you mistreating this little boy or this little girl
That did not
just
ask to be here.
because, just because their father does not want you anymore? And it's like, they didn't ask to be here. They didn't ask, you and the daddy to not be able to get together and stay together, and now you treat them.
And they didn't cause that rift that came in between the two of you either.
Yep. Yeah.
There is a lot of pressures of having children. I do admit that.
Hmm.
But Children are blessings, whatever which way you look at it. I've understood that just because of all of my childhood traumas. But when my daughter ended up first getting pregnant, she said, "Mom, what do you think?" And I said, "Look, I'm going to tell you like this. If you having that baby because you want to keep that man in your life and you're thinking about having a family, that is the wrong reason for you to have that baby. Go on and think about either getting an abortion or giving it up. If you're having a baby because you truly want to have a baby and you get and understand that when all else fails and everybody else walks out, that it is only going to be your responsibility and yours alone, and you can handle and deal with that, then go ahead and have that baby. Because at the end of the day, that is going to be your burden only. Your blessing and your blessing only. Like whatever way you want to look at it. But if you're going to have that child because the expectation is that I'm going to have this family and everything's going to be smooth and good, or this man is going to love me and he's going to stay with me because I had his child, don't do it. Because the minute that that fails or it doesn't work out, you're going to be stuck with that child. And then you are going to have all of those things that is going to be sitting there stirring and screwing in your head.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
had 4 kids because I wanted, let me rephrase that. I had 3 children because I wanted 3 children. I had my son because my daughters came and convinced me, Mom, we can do this. And he is a blessing because I didn't want to have a 4th kid.
He's the best thing that happened to you.
He is. Oh my goodness. My girls know. And it's a blessing, and it's the best thing that happened to me because my toolbox was a little bit fuller.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all of the supports finally in my life that I needed to be able to properly raise a child.
Yep.
Even though he comes from a broken home as well,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be me and him to the end. And when I say it's me and him to the end, it's not like he doesn't have siblings, but his youngest sibling is 8 years older than him. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like he got bonus moms.
Right.
Like all of my sisters got a place of their own. They all got jobs and they all can buy me things. And so when mom says no to me and dad says no to me, I'm gonna call my sisters. Like I'm gonna get it. And he don't only just have my 3, he has 2 on his daddy's side as well. So he has 5 older sisters that all love him to death and are not going to have any other way but for him to be this great man that he is going to need to be, because he going to grow up, he going to start liking these girls, and his sisters is not going to be having him doing any chick wrong. They're going to be like, hold on, wait a minute. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa. They're not going to allow any woman to be wrong on him.
Yep.
And so I love that for him. I love that he has an abundance of support that is going to help guide and mold him into the best person that he can be in this world. Like, even though it wasn't something that I intended on doing, I ended up having a 4th child and I want to change it for the world. He was my hell baby. He gave me hell the first 2 years. And so this boy could walk and talk.
Well, back to the movie.
Yes.
Because we can easily talk about everything all day. But okay, this is a part that tripped me out. And not to cut you off.
Go.
When he just appeared in that house eating cereal. That's why I use that clip for the promo video. Because I'm like, that tripped me out. All you hear is the clicking of the bowl.
But what you have done though, dude?
I don't know, because I feel like I've never been.
You know, you got a man upstairs, Devin.
I've never been in that specific position, but that would creep me out. Like I feel like my soul would jump out of my body, because especially knowing that somebody's upstairs and you sitting down here eating cereal, and I know you bat shit crazy, like excuse my language. That would freak me out, seriously, because it's like, and he's upstairs asleep, so it's like I don't have time to go up there and say, "Hey." Protect yourself. He could come up
Throw some chonies on.
there.
Get
Nothing.
your clothes on.
Yeah. So I kept thinking, like, what if he does go up there? Like, he could go up there and kill him, and he's in his sleep or something. Like, I kept thinking that, like, it could be a whole different scenario.
He could have killed them both when they was up there
Yeah.
sleeping.
Yeah, he could have. And that was another
Legit.
thing I thought.
Like,
Yeah. But that
y'all,
that
y'all
movie,
clueless
that
that he
movie,
downstairs.
that movie part made me really think of, and not to get like super serious and but thinking of women who have experienced that. Thinking of women who actually have been in domestic violence relationships where it ends, the partner does not want to, you know, embrace it, I guess, even though he's the one who asked for the divorce in the first place, and then come and then kill them. Like that actually
Mhm.
happens
All the time.
in the world all the time. Like I'm pretty sure that's happening right now as we're talking on this
All
podcast.
the time.
So I think that's another thing we should talk about because it is serious as well. Like there's a lot of funny parts, tripped out parts, but then there's those serious parts where that actually happens in real life. So
But
what would
let's
you?
talk about why it happens.
Yes.
And my thought and my assumption on why it happens is, oh no, I can always gravitate and attract men like that, the crazies. Um, and my first abusive relationship could have ended just as tragic like that. Um, I didn't have the tools at the time. It was my first abusive relationship, so didn't know like when you are exiting stage left and you know that this is about to be over, you need to be careful. You need to be able to strategically plan your exit. There's not, no, I'm just going to pack up your stuff and you're just going to go and move on. Um, and even if you didn't know that he was crazy
Mm-hmm.
or that's how it is, anytime that you're exiting out of a relationship, I think that we all need to take heed and understand that somebody's not going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
um, and try to make sure that it doesn't leave off with bad terms. Like that abusive relationship taught me that moving forward, any and every relationship that I in needs to end on good terms, with a conversation of what it is that I need versus what it is that you need and why it is that we need this. And that if it was meant for us to be, then we will be. But for right now, we just need to be able to take a break and walk away. And you need a plan, and you need to let whoever and everybody that you possibly can know that these are what your plans are. And this is what you're going to be doing. I remember when I was leaving one of my exes, I had called you and said, "Hey, I'm about to go to the Como Park, and we're about to walk around the park, and I'm about to give him this news. Like, so if I don't make it back home, you know who I'm with." Um, and that situation, it took him 2 years to be able to finally say, "I wish the best for you." I stayed in touch with him for 2 years, just letting him know, like, I'm still working on me. I'm still working on me. And even though I knew that I was moving on, I led him to believe that I was working on me, um, that I needed to get myself together, and that I was in a place to where I needed to just work on me. And he was okay with that, me working on me. He wasn't okay with me being with anybody else. He wasn't okay with me moving on in life, but he was okay with me working on me. Um, with the thought in his head that she's working on her, so one day we're going to be back together. Um, and I had to just continuously plan, but also let him know like the things that I didn't like that were happening in our relationship and why it was that I needed to work on me, like all of the damage that the relationship had caused, but also taking accountability for the actions and the parts that I played in there as well, so that he didn't feel like I was just blaming just 100% him. Um, and that it wasn't just all his fault, but it was a mixture of us both.
But I like that you touched on the fact, like, even if he maybe did not act a certain way in your relationship, I think people need to realize certain events trigger
Hmm.
different things in people. Um, I hear on the news so many times, this person was never like this. They've never harmed anyone. They've never put a finger on, his wife or his ex, and then this person ends up killing the whole family. And it's like, so you don't know what someone is capable of. So it is best to have, that conversation with the person, but also make a plan. I think sometimes, we just go into whatever type of feeling we're having and we just
The heat
boom,
of the moment.
yeah, this is over. And everybody can't deal with, things like that on the fly. Um and like you said, 2 years later is when you finally got a congratulations, you can move on without me being up under you anymore. Some people, don't even get that. And it's like there could be someone who's still following them for umpteen years. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just scary. I think that's the biggest thing that I got from that too, is like I'm thankful and grateful that every relationship I was in that maybe did not have the greatest outcome or situations in there, um, have that lingering effect of the person still bothering me, or haunting me. Of course, it's years later. All of those relationships were almost 10 plus years ago. So I'm thankful that, I'm able to move on. But I've never been in the situation like on the movie to where, someone's putting a weapon and breaking into my house. And those are all things that are serious. Like she even had a restraining order and he's still showing up in the backyard of her friend's house. So it's like you don't really know what someone is capable of until that happens. And luckily they got away, everyone was still alive, but there are situations where people don't get away. And it's like that needs to be talked about. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we will be doing podcasts on our Living Out Loud Wednesday night, throughout the month of October. I think the first podcast will not be, but all the rest of them will. Uh,
Hmm.
we're going to try and get some people to join us, and share their experiences. So if anyone watching this live or this recording wants to be a part of that, I know we are still looking for people to join us. If someone is available on Wednesday, you can definitely come join us, share your story. I know we don't have anyone for Wednesday, so if you wanted to be a part of it for the first week, that would be amazing.
Amazing.
There's no pressure on what you need to share, how detailed you need to get. It's completely up to you to share your story. So I just wanted to touch into that because that kind of just went with that.
Yes.
Because yeah, Domestic Violence Awareness Month is next month. It is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we will definitely try to add something in with that as well, to just get to that. But if we don't get a guest on Wednesday, I think we should touch, kind of just like the things to look for when it
Mhm.
comes to domestic violence awareness. And
Well,
um,
and to just the things to be aware of. Like a lot of people don't even understand, like when you get into a relationship with a person, you become their everything. And so sometimes in your head when things aren't working out, if you're not communicating to your significant other, they don't even have a clue that you're already planning to exit. And so it's like they feel like they just woke up one day and now things have changed. And you're leaving, and now who do I have? I have nothing. I have no one. And not only am I losing my partner, but I'm losing my friend and all of whatever that they think that you are to them. And so that I think that that's when it starts to steer and change over. I've been able to have conversations with some of my past relationships of like, why did it turn so almost detrimental? Um, why was it that you felt like if you couldn't have me, nobody could? Situations, and each one of them has told me like we had gotten in and entered into a relationship, and I had given up so much to be with you
Mm,
that now when you're walking away, like I gave up everything, so now I don't have anything,
mm,
and starts to feel like that was your fault because I invested all into you and now you don't want to be here.
mm. Yeah.
And so now I'm going to be all alone, which is very scary for an individual, and I understand that. I'm not going to have anything, and I have to somehow rebuild myself. Um, which I never thought about any of that. I was just thinking about the things that I wanted, the things that I felt like I needed. I need better and I want better, and so therefore I'm exiting out of this relationship to go and find better.
Yeah.
Um, and I never thought about what this looks like for you because in those moments we don't care. But I had to start telling myself that if I once said that I love you, I'm always going to love you.
Hmm.
I don't want this to end bad for me, and I don't want it to end bad for you. I just now have to realize that me loving you doesn't mean that we need to be together.
Right. Right.
And so to sit down and have those conversations of why it is that we have to separate and what it is that you feel like you need to be able to go on about in your life versus what do I need to go on in my life? Like, how do we separate this in a good way to where I can see you and be able to speak to you versus feeling like I got to run or I got to call the police or I got to get a restraining order. Not
Hmm.
saying that it's going to work and happen for everybody, but at least try to start to understand like where the other person's going through,
Yeah.
and try not to leave off in the heat of the moment. I think that those are the most important things. When we get upset and angry with somebody, we be saying some hurtful, below the waist stuff.
Hmm.
Words hurt,
Yeah.
um, and words could be detrimental. And so we have to remember that of when we're angry, what do we do in those moments and how can we do that better? Because if I can't say this to you when I'm not angry, I really shouldn't be saying it to you when I am angry. Um, we have to do better. I think that that is a major key in trying to stop those cycles of I'm angry, so I want to go ahead and I want to hurt you. And the reality of it, in the middle of my divorce, my husband sent me a text message and said, I want you to know hurt people hurt people. And I said, ooh, I don't even know what that looks like or means. Um, but I don't even want to go there with you. Like, I'm sorry if I hurt you because I'm an adult. I'm grown enough to be able to apologize for whatever it is that you think that I brought to your table or I caused you. Um, because I don't want you to feel like you need to hurt me. This isn't, I need to get my lick back. I love you. I always love you. I just don't want to be with you.
Yep.
Like, it took me into a whole nother area when he said that. Like, what does that look like? I don't want to be looking over my shoulder and you
Mm.
coming for me because you feel like you want to hurt me because I hurt you.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point that you said. You have to look at everything in their perspective as well. I think we do always look at it like, okay, I'm no longer happy, so I want out. Which, I mean, that's a valid feeling to have.
Mhm.
Nobody's saying that you should not feel that, but also you do have to take into consideration that other person's feelings, which is valid. I mean, you've been with this person for however long you've been dealing with them. What does life look like next for you as well as that individual? We're definitely not talking about being in a situation where it's something, violent and you need to leave for your own safety. That's definitely not what we're talking about. We're talking about a non-violent relationship that just is not working. What you would need to do, being in a
That it's starting
abusive,
to escalate.
being in an actual physically, mentally, verbally, financially, any type of abusive relationship, just get out. I mean, there, whatever way you can find out, get out.
But plan for it.
Yeah, make a plan, ask for help, get out. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about being with someone that is just not working. You are not happy. You're becoming a shell of a person, and now you're trying to figure out what's next. And I think people don't even realize that they're no longer happy. I think some people just are going with the vote, like the vibe of
Autopilot.
the
Yep.
flow. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we've been together for 22 years. Like, we've been together for 39 years. And it's like, okay, but are you happy?
Because people stay with each other for convenience.
Yes.
And so then that's where the extra hurt comes from is if I knew that today I wasn't happy, but I knew that I needed you because I couldn't afford this rent on my own, or I wanted to get a new car, or I wanted to do something. So I stayed with you for an extra 6, 7 months.
Hmm.
And now I got what I was supposed to get or I wanted to get. And so now I want you out my life.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Or even I'm just staying with you just for the sake of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fair either, because if I'm with someone and I'm not truly in love with them anymore, I'm not giving this person the best of me.
Right.
That's not a fair, advantage for anyone in a relationship. So it's like you also have to ask yourself that, like, am I giving my best foot forward to my partner as well? Maybe
Yeah.
they're looking at you like you looking at me like I'm not treating you. You're not treating me good either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
And
just tit for
communication
tat,
is the key.
and it's tit for tat, and it's like, what is it? Reciprocity, when you give what you get, and yeah, a lot of relationships don't have that. Man, I I would never want to call anybody out, but I know people who are just together just because that's what they know, and
They
it's
look
like,
good together or they're gaining something together. Like,
no.
mm-mm.
And I don't never want that. Like, I currently am in a relationship, been in a relationship for some years, and I would never want to just be with him just because that's what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I would never do that to him because that's not fair. And that's not fair to myself, because it's like I could be with somebody else if that's the case. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, or he could be
Or be alone.
yeah,
Like,
he could be with somebody else, or I could be by myself trying to figure out my life if that's the case. But nobody wants to be alone nowadays. So it's like, being alone is so terrible, which is really not.
it's
But
not.
but
And I
that's what
used
everybody thinks.
I used to think so. So I have been single now. Next month will be a year.
Yay.
And it's not an easy thing. Like I had never in my life been single before.
Yeah.
I have always gotten underneath a new person before I even exited out of a
Mhm.
relationship with the old person. I had mentally checked out and physically moved on
Mhm.
before anything really has even shaken. Because I had always been afraid to be alone.
Yeah.
Um, it's the first time that I've ever been alone. And in the beginning, it was hard because I was associating with being alone and lonely. And those are two totally different things. Being alone is not being lonely. The more time that I spent with myself, the more I start to understand that I don't even want a relationship. If I got into a relationship, it would be for all the wrong reasons. It would be because I don't like to go to sleep alone at night. It would be because whenever there is things that are going on and there's a bunch of couples, then I have somebody that just has to show up with me. So it would be for all the wrong reasons. Like I love the fact that my space is my space. I love the quiet time. And that if I don't want you to come over and stay the night with me, I don't have to have you come over and stay the night with me. Um, I'm getting more and more used to sleeping in my bed by myself, um, and understanding that that is okay. Like before, it was like during the day I was loving my single life, and then at night it was like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
have anybody.
I
But
hated being single when I was
being
single.
alone and being lonely are two totally different things, though.
Yeah, it is. Because I think when I was single, which was 7.5 years ago, I hated it. But that was also because I didn't know who I was as a woman. And I say that, of course, I knew who I was. I've always been a very confident person in myself. And, I knew I was a mother to the girls at that time. But as far as me not being in a relationship, not having someone, like you said, to call when I need to go somewhere or someone to sleep with at night, just to turn over and have someone there, it was a very empty place for me. Um,
Hmm.
and I thought that my worth was attached to having someone. Um, I learned a lot within the last, 7 years of being in this relationship that you have to have your own individuality. You have to, regardless of how great of a relationship you have to also be happy with yourself. If you're
I
not,
am I am so much stronger and fierce
good.
being single, Davina, than being with anyone. I started to realize that a lot of my relationships I was just settling in just to have somebody there. Um, and I'm now at the point in my life that I'm not willing to water myself down for anybody. I'm not willing to dumb myself down for anybody. I'm 100% me. And there's a lot of people out here that can't handle me as 100% who I am. But they're not worthy to be with me either. And so
Yeah.
that's just where I'm standing. I'm like, I haven't yet met my match.
Hmm.
I keep running into people that I think like could be.
Yeah.
And then I learn some new news, and then it's like, oh, no, that wasn't for me either.
Yeah.
Um, because again, I'm not going to water myself down. I'm not settling any longer. Um, I'm going to be patient, and God's going to provide me with who it is that I'm supposed to be with.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm just going to continue to be 100% who I am
Hmm.
and demand what it is that my expectations are in life. And
Yeah.
if you can't meet up with those expectations, then we just not going to have this. Um, and I'm learning along that way of who I am. And I
Hmm.
think that that is a very important lesson in life is spending time with yourself so that you can get to know who you are and what it is that you really do like. A lot of us like things that other people like because we have this idea of this could work out. And if this works out, then I have to like what you like.
Right.
Now, I only like what I like.
Yep.
I met a guy that didn't check any of my boxes, but for some weird reason, I still was like head over heels for him. I don't even know how that works, but he went for me.
It's the euphoric feeling. And that's one
Mhm.
thing I was going to say is like, have you ever had the moment, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have, where you want something so bad that you
Yep.
make it work. And
Yep.
that's those relationships that end up, if you are in a relationship, situationship, whatever the case may be, those are the things that end up bad or not working out because it's like, this is not something that was supposed to be for you anyways. But you just,
And somebody feels
like
used.
a puzzle piece, you're just stuffing into a space that does not belong there. This is a
Okay.
zebra puzzle, and you're trying to put a leopard piece in, and it's not gonna work. Like, yeah, it might look like it works. It might look like the same exact shape, but that picture does not come out.
It didn't even look like it worked, and you knew that it didn't look like it worked, but you in your head was trying to fool everybody else because you wanted it to work.
Trying to put a circle in a triangle piece, and it
Hmm.
just it just
Said
ain't
no,
gonna work. And I
and
think
we can't do that.
that's exactly what happened with the movie. I feel like
Hmm.
she changed him to be the person she wanted him to be, and he was
She was
tired.
trying to change him.
He was tired of putting on this facade of being, because he's just like, you want me to talk like this, you want me to act like this, and you want me to do that. And he
Mm-hmm.
probably did it. He probably did it for some
At
time.
one point, yeah.
And he just got tired of it. And it was like literally him taking his bra off and saying, I'm tired of putting on this facade of being a person you want me to be. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when the whole a-hole of his self came out, and he showed her exactly who he was. And did he do it in the right way? No. He could have
Mm-hmm.
definitely did it completely different, but I think that's also a good um just like a actual visual of what it is if you're being something for someone that you actually are not.
Well, and vice versa, because if you listen to her, she also watered herself down
Mm-hmm.
for him.
Yep.
And so when she was sitting at the island, she said, like, you don't even know who I am.
Mm-mm, he didn't.
I'm about to show you who I am.
Yep, he didn't know who she was. And I think there's a lot of people that do that. And okay, yes. When you're in a relationship, you do have to make compromises. You do alter certain things for the sake of the relationship. However, when you become a whole different version of you that you don't even know what looks like, and now you're just filling these voids of what your partner wants, you are no longer you. You're just this, test dummy for whatever your partner's asking you to be.
You should never compromise on your values or your morals.
Yeah.
Those should never be even on the table. Those aren't cards that you lay on the table because those aren't cards that you should be willing to wheel and deal with.
Hmm. If this
You
man,
should only be laying on the table what it is that you're willing to wheel and deal with.
this man only likes females in heels, but you
And you
can't
know you
walk
don't
in
like
heels.
heels.
You can't walk in heels. You don't like heels. But now every outfit you got heels on, and you're always uncomfortable. Now you got bunions on your feet. You got, all these things wrong with you because you want to appease this person. And it's like, this ain't even like what you like. You don't even like heels, but you wearing heels every day. And I've been that person.
And wasting your time with it. Like, we shouldn't even be entertaining stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, to be honest, I am 45, about to be 46 in a month and a half. Not even. Um, I met a 35-year-old guy. Didn't know that he was 35. That's not somebody that I wouldn't go that young into dating. Um, but for some weird reason, I thought that he was older.
Hmm.
We went out on a date. Um, I have my tubes tied. I have 4 kids. My youngest is about to be 15.
Hmm.
So I got grandbabies, and I'm looking forward to more grandbabies. I want kids that I can give back. I can come spend some time with you, spoil the heck out of you, and give you back. I don't want anybody else that I am having to be responsible for. And so we
Hmm.
had to have this conversation on our first date. Like, do you have any kids? He said, no. And I said, oh, so you just didn't want any kids? And he says, no, I want kids. Thinking, we wasting our time then. Like,
Exactly.
it's a wrap. Like,
I'm a woman for you.
not. It's just not going to work out. And so when he said he wanted more kids, it triggered the question asking, like, how old are you? Because a 45-year-old man, or
Yeah.
46, already would have done that. Like, not
Hmm.
still thinking of that. Like, nobody wants to parent at 46 years old, not a new
Hmm.
baby, unless you were going to have me do all of the work.
Right.
And so it triggered me asking, like, how old are you? And when he said 35, I had to just go ahead and keep it real with him. So I can't give you children,
Hmm.
nor do I want any more children, and you're 35 years old.
Yeah.
You deserve a woman that can give you what it is that you want in life. So I feel like we're wasting each other's time.
Hmm.
I'm not into wasting any more time in my life because that's one thing that I don't have any more of,
Yeah.
to just be freely given away. And so he said, oh, no, we could try. There's nothing we can try. You want to have a family.
Right. Try for what?
Right. To waste time.
To waste each other's time. Exactly. That's exactly what it
To waste each other's time and to get one of us in our feelings,
is. Hmm.
in a position to where one of us is going to walk away from this angry,
Yeah.
upset at the other one, because it's going to be a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
You either not going to get what you want, or I'm going to have to take something that I don't want, which is I can't give you children. So that means you're going to have to be cheating
Mm.
to go and have those children. So why are we doing this? Mm-mm.
Right.
Delete.
And then look
Thank
up
you.
17 years later, like, oh girl, and be like, where did my life go? I'm just with
Mhm.
someone who I'm not. And I'm pretty sure. I don't even remember. Did she ever say that she wasn't happy? I know she said that she ended up having to be like different. I don't ever really
She
remember.
never said that she wasn't happy. What she said is she was blaming her mom for leading her to believe that if this is what you chose to do, that you're supposed to do whatever it takes to be able to keep this.
Yeah.
Like, so you said that you love this man and you want to be with this man, you got to do whatever it takes
Mm-hmm.
to keep it. Like, I thought that being a good wife was what you wanted from me, mama. And she said, no, not when, not when I heard he's done all these things. Because remember, the mom had found the letter
Yeah.
that the friend had wrote her,
Mm-hmm.
stating all of the things that this man has done to her.
How'd you feel about that? Having
That
daughters.
was that
We
was
both have daughters.
that was hurtful. But having three daughters of my own, I get and understand that they're gonna endure a lot of things that I don't have any control over.
Yeah.
And so being their mother, knowing that people, I'm not even gonna say women, because men go through it too,
Mm-hmm.
go through a lot of things that the other person wants to go ahead and pour off onto you. I know that no matter how much I don't like it and don't want it, they're going to go through whatever they choose to go through.
That's
And so
true.
my job as their parent is to try to help them, give the tools to lead them to the place where they know that they're worthy of,
Mm-hmm.
they know that they're more deserving of, and that they are more powerful than what they think that they are.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um, I think all three of my children have been through some things that I wouldn't want them to go through ever again in their life.
Yeah.
My middle daughter was in a relationship for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last 4 years, I've heard her say, like, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
But just because I wanted her to exit stage left and leave him, today, like pack up and come home, I knew that there was a lot more that she was going to have to deal with. And so what I stopped doing was tell her, F him, leave
Mm-hmm.
him, and continuously let her know, as long as I have a roof over my head, you have one over yours. You can come home at any time, and I don't care who says what.
Yeah.
Um, my expectation is not for you to help me with anything or do anything. I just want you to be able to be healthy, happy, and safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you can come home whenever you want to. On top of that, just letting her know, like, you're beautiful
Mm-hmm.
and you're smart. And whenever somebody is telling you that you don't need to do this or need to do that, and this is the things that you really should be doing to better yourself as an individual, like I know that when we get into relationships, we like to see ourselves as partners.
Yeah.
But part of being a partner with somebody is to help them build themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so when somebody's trying to take away from you so
Yep.
that you're constantly in need of them,
Yep.
that's not healthy.
Nope.
If I want to go, and explore the world, you as my partner should be trying to tell me, like, okay, like,
Go ahead, do it, girl.
do it.
What do I need to do to support you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. If
Yeah.
if I say I want to go, jumping off of a dang cliff, here, baby, put this helmet on and these knee
Yeah.
pads and these
You want me
elbow
to do
pads.
it? Right.
Right. Like, what else do you need to make sure that you survive it?
Yeah.
And if your significant other can't be your biggest cheerleader in those situations, and vice versa, if you can't be that person's cheerleader, because you shouldn't want that person to ever not have either.
Right.
Like, we have to do better with each other and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that. Like, sometimes it might feel like, oh, he's getting a better job, and so when he starts to make money, he might leave me. Well, if that was in the deck of cards, why are you burning any extra time?
Exactly.
Because it's going to happen regardless. And so it's better for you to learn that now than for you to go ahead and burn an extra 4 years with him and then find out and it's more detrimental or disturbing to you about it. Like, we have to do better.
Hmm.
Um, and we have to start paying attention to those signs too and start addressing that. Like, if I'm getting a promotion at my job and you don't want me to take the promotion at my job, I need to be able to ask you why. Like, what's
Right.
going on? Like, what are your thoughts? We need to have a conversation on that.
Yeah.
Because I want to know why you don't want me to do better or succeed.
Right.
And those are the scary things with my children is they don't see those flags. And
Hmm.
so she stayed in it. And every time she said she wanted to go back to school, he was telling her, like, no, we don't have time for that right now. Like, well, when are you going to ever have time for school? Like, you're 25 right now.
Right.
You sure don't want to go back to school when you're 30.
I mean,
She
she
could,
could. She
she
definitely
could,
could.
but you don't want to.
Yeah.
Like,
But
the
I
longer
think
you
the
wait,
main focus of that is he was not allowing her to excel in life because he wanted to keep her at the same level she was and be less than, so she felt like she needed him.
she
And that
needed
was,
him.
yeah, and I mean I remember, experiencing that being around them. So I could feel it just by being around them. And to speak on my daughters, I feel like you said, they've experienced a lot of things that they should not have.
Hmm.
I think the biggest thing I would like them to know, but also anybody's daughter to know, is that you don't have to deal with anything you don't have to deal with. And I say that, and I will say it again. You do not have to deal with anything you do not have to deal with. So,
Hmm.
yes, you might love someone. Yes, you might think that this person is the end of all, be all, and nothing else will get better after not being with them. But you don't have to deal with dysfunction. You do not have to deal with someone making you feel less than. You do not have to be with someone to make you feel like you are empty. And love just ain't enough sometimes.
Hmm.
There's people I love that I would never give my time of day to again. That
Absolutely.
and I'm not in love with them no more. So I think that's a big difference too. Like, and you know, I was just talking to my guy about this recently. People have different perspectives of what love means to them. So love to me might be one thing, love to the next person might be something else. And it's like you have to understand, where does your partner meet you at? Is
Hmm.
their definition of love the same as yours? Or are they self-serving and they think that's them loving you because they're getting everything that they need from you? Oh, that means I love her because she fulfills all of my needs. That's not love.
Mm-mm.
That's convenience. You're just dealing with this person because they're conveniently fulfilling your needs.
But I'm a devil advocate on that one. But be open minded enough to know that we all have different tools in our box. And so
Hmm.
somebody else's version of love might be a little bit different from yours. And so even though you might feel like they're self serving,
Hmm.
they might be contributing things that you're not paying attention to and or see.
True. But the self-serving point of what I'm saying is like, in a situation of, they're not allowing you to be the person you are supposed to be for you.
Well,
That's a self.
and that's what I'm saying. And so I say this to say I was in that relationship for on and off for 19 years.
Hmm.
And I felt like he ran away every friend or family member in my life
Hmm.
and wanted me all to himself. And I constantly felt like that. But now that I am 3.5 years out of that relationship, I can honestly look back and say that that is not what the case was. And we just never communicated on it. And so, what the case was is now that I have spent time with myself and I have gotten to know me, I now understand that I am not strong enough to walk away from the people in my life that are friends or family. To just, I'm not cold hearted enough to just go ahead and cut you off and just be able to walk away. And
That are
so
needed. Yeah, that you need to
that
do
that
that.
need,
I can agree with that.
or place you somewhere different at
Mhm.
my table.
Mhm.
And he knew that about me. And so for those people that he felt were unhealthy
Mhm.
or snakes in the grass, he chased them off.
Yep. I can
And
agree with that.
I did not know that then. And so that's why I'm saying, like, we have to kind of know ourselves and pay attention to what is going on.
Mhm.
Because back then I would have thought like that was a very controlling, abusive relationship.
Yeah.
Now that I look back on it, it was not that. It was that that man knew me 100%, and I didn't even really know myself.
Mm. 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 I can agree with that.
So
I'm team him anyways
yeah,
to the last drop, but I'm not gonna say names. But I mean,
right. No, but I'm saying now that I look back, there's
yeah,
so many different aha moments
yeah.
of I was so broken
Mm-hmm.
from all of my past relationships that I applied all of that onto him. You're trying to
Yeah,
control me. You're trying to do this. You're trying to do that. You're verbally abusing me, not realizing that no, verbal abuse in my head was you saying stuff to me that I just don't like or that hurts my feelings.
yeah,
Um, that wasn't the case. You just was saying things that I just didn't like.
right. Didn't
I
agree
didn't
with.
want to hear that, and it hurt my feelings because you said it. So therefore, you're verbally abusing me.
Yeah,
Um,
I could say. I mean, I was around, so I know that there were a lot of scenarios that I knew were your fault. and
well, and I'm a
you know,
diva.
I would tell you about it.
I'm a diva, and so
Yeah,
back then I was the princess,
yeah.
and so it just was what it was, you know. And I
But I
tell him
think,
to this day, I am the monster that you created.
but I also feel, in my perspective from the outside looking in, was the woman you are now. If you would have been that then, y'all wouldn't have had so many disagreements.
Right.
There wouldn't have been so much conflict because, like you said, you were trying to not hear what you needed to hear, but also you weren't in the position to receive it. So it's like,
I didn't have those
if
tools.
I'm telling you it's ABC and D comes next, and you're like, no, it's not D, it's E,
See,
you're never going to hear that D is next because you are not in the position yet. And I mean, sometimes that's just the way life works. You know,
mm-hmm.
if it's supposed to happen at that moment, it will. If it doesn't, you learn from it and you move on. And I think just by seeing how you've evolved from that, I mean, it made you a better person. It made you, you know, be more self aware and you know, be single for this year and understand who you are.
Yeah,
And you know, maybe everything comes full circle. You never know.
maybe like everything happens for a reason, and so yes, and in those moments, you have to be able to know yourself
Hmm.
and know what it is that you're bringing to the table and what it is that the other person's bringing to the table, and be able to sit down and actually self-reflect on situations that you don't like, and be able to take accountability. Like that is a big thing for me now. What part did I play in that? And me figuring out that I'm not strong enough to place people in my life at different parts in my table or walk away or cut loose from people. And sometimes there's somebody else that has to come step in and feel like they need to protect me and go ahead and take the bullet in that area or just be the bad guy. And he was just the bad guy. Um, would make somebody believe it's something other than what it's not. And I think we have to start looking at things like that. Um, is it me or is it that person, and actually have conversations and talk about that of what that's doing to you. I don't think that that was ever a conversation that we ever had when we weren't upset with each other. So it was like in the heat of the moment, like, oh, you don't ever allow me to have any friends and you're trying to isolate me because you want to control me, um, and not trying to hear what it is that he had to say. And so looking at it like in a different perspective and try to see like the light at every tunnel, because had I known that then, things probably would be different now. There's a lot that I didn't understand and a lot that I didn't know that now that I can look back, it's like, oh,
Hmm.
um, he was truly a friend.
Yeah.
Um, he probably wasn't the best partner, but he was. I will always give him that credit, um, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
But when we think of like when we're in abusive situations or relationships, um, really think about what that entails
Hmm.
and what that means. Like it's so easy to say that I'm being abused, just because now it's so out in the open, and so everybody's just like, oh, well, that's abuse. No, really sit down and think about like, are you being abused?
Yeah.
Um, because if you're not, then you're just not. If you
Hmm.
are, then you need to do something, and there's an action that you need to take on that.
And I think also, I mean, some people can have abusive behavior, and
Hmm.
because they don't know themselves as a person, they're reflecting that onto you because that's their own feelings. So I think sometimes we don't even, I feel like I've been abusive at times. Maybe not physically, maybe not, financially, but maybe with my words. I may have been verbally abusive towards people only because, this is me reflecting myself onto another individual. And I don't think anyone intentionally does it when they've been through things. It's abuse when people are intentionally doing
Hmm.
it. And I think that's that fine line. There's always a fine line to things of when you're like,
Everything.
yeah, is this person literally trying to do this on purpose? Or is
Hmm.
this just the way that the person is and they don't know how to act
Or
different?
know any better.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing I thought of from the movie that you were also talking about was, um, I thought she says they were together 17 years. What role did she play in him feeling like it's okay for him to act like that after
Hmm.
17 years? Because, where did she step in as a strong individual on her own to say, hey, well,
I
no,
don't like that. Let's talk about it.
yeah, this is not okay. This is
Hmm.
not what we're doing. I wouldn't still be sitting making breakfast for you in the morning after you just did all this craziness. Like, so it's the part that she played as well in that, because I'm not waking you up with eggs and bacon after you
Oh
just
no,
act.
I'm waking you up with eggs and bacon, but it ain't gonna be on a plate in the bed.
Hot grits in
Yeah,
the pan.
I'm gonna be beating you with
right,
that
right in the left.
pan.
We could go on and on about this, but I think we had a good conversation, and we should probably wrap it up here because I feel like we got some other topics
We about to get it, yeah, because
just from this conversation today. Because
yes,
man, it's so much that there was a lot that happened in the movie, and I think it is really a good eye-opening movie. Um, I hate that some people didn't like it because if you really look at it, you can learn some things from it. Um, but I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was good.
I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It was a really big eye opener in a lot of different areas of,
yeah.
yes, communication, communication, and
Mhm.
communication. So if I have one takeaway to offer anybody is to make sure that you're always communicating.
Yes.
Talk to your significant other, talk to your children, talk to your parents. We need to communicate more and a lot better, more efficient. Communicate when you are not angry
Hmm.
and in a safe, comfortable manner.
Hmm. One takeaway I have from the movie is be you at all costs. Don't dummy yourself down. Don't water yourself down. Don't be less of a person just for someone else to love you or be with you or whatever the case may be. Because there's someone out here for you that is going to
Mhm.
love you at 100%. That's the takeaway I got from that. So if you have not watched the movie, hopefully we gave you a couple of pointers to make you want to watch it. It's a really good movie. If you haven't watched it, go watch the
Watch it.
movie, come back, and give us some comments. You could comment in the comment section on the video. We'll go back and respond or talk about it later in another podcast. But we will let y'all go. We appreciate y'all tuning in. If you have not tuned in to any of our podcasts, you can go to our YouTube. We have all of them housed on there from day one, if I'm not mistaken. I think I still have everything on there from day one going
Yes.
forward. So, yeah, get caught up with us. You'll get to know us a lot from
If
those.
you have any movie suggestions,
Yep,
please let us know.
put those in the comments. Yep. Because we'll be,
Cocos and Convos is every other Sunday.
yep, we're back in effect. Yep. And yeah, we'll let y'all go. See you Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.